Hey everybody, welcome to Badge and Banter. This is your host, Charlie Whittington with the Lawton Police Department, and we are coming to you from Cameron University. They so graciously let us work on our podcast out of their facility, so we thank them for that. It's been a little bit since we've been with you guys, but we've been busy, so it's good to be back, and we're going to get some good information out to you guys. So we have Thad and Alana here today, and they are from Comanche County Emergency Management. So I gave you guys kind of the grand tour of this this setup. What do you think?
I think it's awesome.
Yes.
I love the fact that you have this right here, in Latin America that can kind of connect your public safety,
Everybody.
and your first response, and all those people together and communicate with the public. I love it.
Isn't it so cool?
It is. It's very cool.
Since we've established where we are, Cameron University, and how nice it is and that you like it, I talked to you guys about coming in for the podcast earlier in the month, and then we kind of just set it up today and was like, hey, let's do this. Let's get it done today. And I want to talk to you guys about just not only emergency management, but what you guys do and what you're about, and then how you help the police department. And because we've been working together a lot, especially this last April, this last month. Like I said, we were really busy.
Yep.
So kind of give the listeners a little bit about yourself. Tell them a little bit.
Okay. Well, my name's Alana Pack, and I'm actually the Deputy Director for Comanche County Lawton Emergency Management. So we actually encompass both the county and also the city of Lawton as well. And really my day-to-day job is kind of project management and program management. So I oversee a lot of the functions of what we do, which is not only the planning side, so working on emergency operations plans, which really lay out how we work and how we respond to different types of events and incidents. I also work a lot with our technology and our social media and a lot of our outreach, and try to kind of keep everybody in line and when the boss is not there. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Speaking of keeping everybody in line.
Yeah, that's a full-time job. My name's Thad Hulbert. I'm an emergency management specialist with Comanche County Lawton Emergency Management. I retired from the Lawton Fire Department after 27 years. I was in the military prior to that. And my job currently, I'm responsible for public education and outreach and help the community get ready to respond to and recover from emergencies.
So when you say emergencies, it could be anything, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you guys act on that with, let's just say, well, the example we could use is the rain that we had this last April. That was all hands on deck for you guys, even before it was all hands on deck for us with the department and with emergency or with like Lawton Fire and things like that. So kind of walk us through the process of something like, we know the rain's coming, we know it's going to be potentially severe weather, a lot of storms. How does that work for you guys on your end?
So really we like to do what we call, like he said, we've got this slogan that we've developed. It's a campaign called Ready, Respond, Recover. And we incorporate different pieces of what the community can do, and even, businesses and government entities, what they can do for each one of those phases. It's really a condensed version of kind of what emergency management does. There's like 5 different phases that we kind of, as an organization, officially follow. But that's a lot for just everyday people on the street or someone who's running a business, someone who's not in emergency management. So we wanted to simplify it. And for us, it really started with the public outreach and information side of things. So basically giving folks, hey, this is potentially what could happen. This is potentially what we're seeing, significant rainfall or severe weather, and this is how it could potentially impact you. So whether it be flooding in your home or utility impacts or road access impacts, things of that nature, and how they can better prepare themselves for those types of events. We have a lot of folks who drive into the city of Lawton. And maybe we have a lot of folks, especially on the tourism side, who may not be familiar with the low-lying areas, the places that typically have the flash flooding. So we try to get that information out as best as we can so people aren't driving into floodwaters or driving into standing water. And really looking at even just the personal preparedness of, hey, what can you do for your home, for your family, for your pets? So we push out a lot of information that hopefully helps people be aware of what the hazard is and how they can be better prepared to either respond to it or to, I hate to say the word survive it, but basically endure and get through that piece so that they can come to the other side. Manage it. Yeah, that's a really good word. So we do a lot of that. And then, of course, on the response side of it, you saw a lot sitting in the Emergency Operations Center where there was a lot. It was very information heavy. People wanted to know what roads were closed. People wanted to know, what was the status of, outages, or even the evacuations that we put out for some of the areas on the east side of Cache Creek. So there was a lot of that information that we were also pushing out in terms of the response for the community. And then you see kind of on the tail end, you see the recovery side of it, where it's here's how you can report those damages. Here's how you can tell us whether your house has been affected or not affected, which led into things like the Oklahoma Baptist Disaster Relief folks coming in, the Small Business Administration coming in, and certain kind of elements and support tools that can help the community as a whole recover.
And when they said they're opening up the EOC, that was everybody.
Yes.
Was there.
Yes.
I know when they said, hey, Charlie, we're going to have you come down there as a PIO for the PD. I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's burn this candle. And I get down there and I'm like, I was ready, but I don't know what I was ready for. There's just so much.
There is.
And that's just rain.
Yes.
That was just for rain and I say just rain for flooding. It's no pun intended, but it's just so fluid.
Yes.
I would remember I was over in one corner and we were drafting a PSA, and that we're over there. This is what we're going to put out. This is what we're pushing, and we had these big notebooks.
Yes.
And we're holding them up like say anything, like a boombox, and we're like, hey, make sure we cover these points.
Yes.
And when we were done, some of that had already changed.
Yes.
And so it's just constantly, and while we're doing that over in this corner, there's other people getting this information. They're finding out, okay, we need to open up, the dams are opening up this much more.
Yes.
Oh, and this will impact us by this time frame.
Yes.
And then we have to put that out. And so I know with Thad, with myself, with Caitlin, Gatlin was there from City of Lawton, putting out all kinds of information.
Yes.
And then we're on scene.
Yes.
I leave there and I go out and I'm like, hey, I'm monitoring this. We have officers that are out in the field monitoring the levels of the water coming up on Cache Creek.
Yep.
It was a lot.
It was.
Do you think, Thad, from the firefighter side of it, 27 years, do you think that kind of prepared you for this position, prepared you for this role?
I definitely think it helped. Both situations are dynamic and complex, but in different ways. In this position or this situation, the information was the dynamic, complex difficulties.
Being pushed, yeah.
Being pushed and just collecting the sheer amount of information on the roads, on how much water's coming out of the dams, on people stranded, all the different, the complexity was on such a larger scale that it took, the Emergency Operations Center to keep that in line. And like you said, it changed by the minute. So it was just difficult to keep up with that.
It was, and it's crazy to think about it now in hindsight. We're a month and a half or so out from that, and I remember sitting in the EOC and kind of watching all the things that you just described kind of happening in real time, and what you were seeing is what we call a common operating picture, and you see all those different facets because there was even more that going on than I think you even realized. Because not only were we trying to get rumor control information out, we were trying to get shelters established. We were trying to staff those shelters, find the
Red Cross
locations.
coming in. What about people's pets?
Yes.
There's all these questions coming in, and then we were receiving stuff on Facebook. I know, Thad, you were thick in it with everybody. I know when we were on camera, there's a lot that goes into it, and just pushing out the same information. You would push out something about, this is what's closing, this is what it is, and then we would have to share that, and then it was just all vice versa. Everything was like I said, all hands on deck. But it was like it was controlled chaos.
Yes, very much so.
I was appreciative of the information coming in. Like, we would have officers in the field, have firefighters in the field, city management, everybody that was working this at some point had information coming in. But you also have to, if I'm putting it out, or if Thad's putting it out, or if Caitlin was putting it, we had to validate it.
Yes.
And so it got to the point where if he's telling me this is what it is, okay, we're good. That's all I need. And the trust that everybody has in that, And then if something came up and it was a wash, we're like, okay, we'll manage that.
Yeah.
We're past it. It's already in the rearview mirror. I don't know why we're going to even look back. We're gonna handle this and address it. But definitely, yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes it thinking about it and just thinking, and I say this just because, so one of the cool things about our organization is we are an alerting authority for the iPods. So that's the thing that sets off your phones during severe thunderstorms. So hits those wireless emergency alerts. Everybody's phones, yes. And every time I go to do a message, you get this like so severe anxiety because you're constantly kind of second guessing the information that you're getting ready to put out. And I just remember that, especially with the evacuations, right? And so when we decided to extend them, or we decided to expand them, that what was it, Turtle Creek, and all
Northeast 15th,
that whole section there, and just that kind of anxiety, because it's like a lot of people may kind of think, well, we're kind of this 50,000 foot view, but in my head, I'm like, I'm directly affecting people.
You're in it.
And I'm in it, and I'm looking at, how, because I'm thinking of my own home and my own family and my own pets and everything, and like, okay, the logistical issues behind that. When can we get these people notified? Which that was one of the coolest things when we first started that, especially from the law enforcement side, from the PD side, is I remember sitting there, and I think it was Saturday night. The whole week kind of blurred, but the city management was there, the watch commander was there, and we were basically creating this script for LPD to go out and start knocking on doors and being like, here's what you need to know. Here's how you need to prepare. Be ready to, voluntarily leave your home, and here's where you can go.
They came to my house.
Yeah.
I remember when they came up there, it was, I laughed and laughed because the officer came up, reminded me of the movie Up, where the kid's like, my name is Russell.
Yes.
And I am selling and I was like, I just left there.
Yeah.
I just left there, so no need. And I was like, but that's the other dynamic. You have to put that in place, push play, and then trust that everybody's going to be able to get out there and tell these people.
Yes.
And then they're going to have to either stay or they're going to have to go.
Yeah.
And we couldn't make them leave. We could just say, hey, this is the information we have. Everything we were putting out, everything was a positive feedback that we were getting, and they were really thankful. Getting all those people in place, getting those firefighters in place, and emergency, because there was a point in time where they were looking at the water coming through and cresting and splitting the city. Now, it happened before in like 08 maybe.
Like there was
06,
like 08, 06, and then I think it almost did it again, I think in like 15 when we had the big drought buster that came through. So there was so much prep that went into just that potential and that possibility happening.
Because you have to look at this. We're in essence, we're making Lawton East and Lawton West.
Yes.
And now, Lawton West hospitals are all west, Southwestern, Memorial, all of you, and you have maybe your AM/PM clinics and things like that east of I-44. But were we going to take them to Duncan if someone was injured? How are we going to get personnel back and forth? And we just I figured we're going to establish two cities, kind of like. It splits. It's like this side's going to be Mad Max.
Yes.
You're going to be limited to what you have on the group.
Yep.
But they had plans for that
Yes.
already, which was.
And that's one thing I want to touch on is the coordination in the Emergency Operations Center. After years on Lawton Fire, that was one thing I didn't get to see was the city leadership, the police department, the fire chief, the police chief, the city management, county commissioners, everybody coming together and planning this, to help the public, to help the citizens. And that's one thing that I think gets lost or just doesn't get seen by the citizens, that those leaders are coming together and pushing out a product for the citizens.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that, we're talking about the ready, respond, and recover. The ready portion was the responding, everybody was out in it. And even the recovery, nobody let off the gas.
No.
It was constant. It's like, okay, now that we're here, okay, we have the Baptist recovery group, the treatment as far as like clearing out the trees and everything that had washed through, and everything, just clean up, and everything was still, and I'm still, you guys are probably still getting phone calls, and people are still making the recovery because there were houses that flooded that are not in flood zones.
Yep.
And, they don't have flood insurance. What do? We don't, there's all of these what ifs.
Absolutely.
And it just seemed very much that all entities involved were ready, responding, and recovering, and the foot never came off the gas.
No, and honestly, if this goes forward and they do wind up getting like a federal disaster declaration, we won't let off the gas for at least another year.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, then that piece. So another thing, we've been doing all the damage assessments. So we did multiple damage assessments here in Lawton with the folks from like Public Works, Public Utilities, and Streets. And then out even in the counties, because not only were there so many homes, but there were so many roads and bridges
washed
and
out,
different things that were really impacted by the amount of water. And I just remember coming into work Saturday afternoon when everything finally lowered enough for us to get in, and coming across New Moo Creek there on Lee at 2nd Lee, and it looked like Whitewater Rapids.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never seen it. I've driven this road since 2017. Every single day, Monday through Friday. I've never seen that much water in it. And it was just, at that point, it kind of hit me how much the impact and how big this whole situation was, as far as just what's going to happen.
The amount, it's like, the amount that we had, they were looking through just some stats. 1947, there was 11.91 inches of rain in April.
Yeah.
And then 2025, it was 17.11.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Yes.
At my house, we had, I want to say it was like 18 inches of rain in that week.
Wow.
In just that week.
Yeah.
And we live over there close to the, Turtle Creek Addition, all that. So when we're talking about the responding portion, I was at the center, and then I'm getting calls and texts from my family like, hey, you got a flat bottom boat?
Yeah.
Because you're right there off of that area.
Yeah.
And so, but luckily for us, we were okay. But my concern was also there. Like, okay, my family's at the house. How are we going to get to them? Okay, I have to be here.
Yes.
Luckily for us, with cell phones and technology, we can work from anywhere. So when they did the live shot out there outside the fire station, when Caitlin was out there, I think for one of the final ones of like, hey, this is where it's at. Chief Williams was out there too. This is what we've got. They've been monitoring Rogers Lane. We're mobile, and I think that for this time frame, is so beneficial for us and for you guys in your positions that you are. If you're going out having to check areas, you're relying on somebody that's out in the field, the officers, the firefighters, the ambulance techs, anybody that's out there working. In this case, it was everybody reporting it, flooding it back in, like I said, no pun intended, to us, and then us pushing that other product back out. So
absolutely. And I would say probably one of the best examples of that, especially kind of the remote and then the hybrid piece of it, was so we went through, I think it was Wednesday night, and we had I think Captain Benton, I think, is who was in there.
Captain Benton.
And then we had Chief Nyhart from LFD that was in there. And we kind of started making the decision once things had receded. We hadn't seen the crest, but that next night we were looking at just severe thunderstorms. And I know Thad and I had kind of gone back and forth. And of course, you always have to think about like the Weather Service. They're forecasting for this huge region, right? So they've got almost 3/4 of the state that they broadcast and they forecast for, which when you try to start drilling down, it gets really skewed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, especially because everyone was nervous, I mean, rightfully so. I was nervous, and I'm like, okay, we've survived to this point. We had Station 3 that was checking water levels up there at Rogers Lane. We had patrol that was checking the night before. I mean, we dropped quite a few inches of water just that one night, but then we're looking at the next night going, we may get another 5 inches of rain.
Yeah. And that was the problem.
And so I kind of hit some contacts with the Weather Service, was like, hey, everybody's on edge, rightfully so, but can you help me, alleviate some of this? And because by this point, we're working 24-hour operations, but we figured out this way of basically a text coordination group. And so I had Austin in there, I had the battalion chief, Chris Jones in there, I had dispatch supervisor, myself, and then Streets Utilities. And we just sat there and we just coordinated all night long. And I'm sitting there watching for alerts and warnings, and I'm like, okay, here's coming, you got a thunderstorm warning coming, here's this, here's what's this, And it actually worked out so well because they were able to go out and do their jobs. We weren't pulling people off the streets, but they were still getting those real-time updates back and forth and just that flow of information. So it worked out even once we were kind of on that detransition and demobilization trend, where it worked out so well. Plus you had those relationships that were built, and because before it's like a lot of even on the law enforcement side, we know a lot of them, but we don't know a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that was, for me, one of the coolest things that came out is now I have faces and names, and so do they.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've built kind of at least a professional relationship with folks that I'd never
Well,
interacted with before.
And to say that too, we were talking about it. We had a public information meeting about maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and that was one of the key things. Is I guess like a takeaway, like, hey, if we have something, who can we rely on that this is going to be information we need to put out? Because for a group of 4 people trying to put information out, 5 people, it's a lot.
Yes.
And you got to think you're gathering information from everywhere around you, and you got to, like I said, figure out what's correct, what's deviated a little, and then what is going to be best for your listener. Like, how is this going to impact them? Where are they going to go? And what can we do to assist in that to make it better? You know, you've got people at home whose family may be out in the field for military, and now they're having to work around this with kids and everything else. And how can we make this the easiest way possible for them
Absolutely.
to get it? So yeah, it's absolutely great to put faces with names. It's great that we had that meeting, and we had now a phone roster and a text roster. So if something does come up again, which it will, doesn't always have to be rain, then we have faces to name. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. You bring off, I guess, getting to the banter point, but you bring up a really good point a couple of times, and you're talking about your own family, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the flooding, and then other folks who, may be at home. And that's, for us, on the ready side, that is probably one of the key and critical points that we try to make for folks, especially family of, first response folks, of folks hospital folks, people who are going to be essential and who are going to be in it. And I always used to tell people when I'd work with them, either EMS or hospital, if you prepare your staff and your staff prepares their family, then you're going to get those staff into work. And that's one of the things that I like to even convey out to the community itself is, hey, you may be pulled into work, you may be gone. You may be one of those folks who works away from home. But now, if you take time to prepare yourself and prepare your family, now you don't have to worry about them as much. We're going to worry about them, right?
Yeah.
But now they're more self-sufficient. Now they can handle whatever type of situation comes their way. And, really kind of going back to that again, that's really the heart of what that ready, respond, recover piece really means is, even if you're just a person at home who's like, my husband works away or my husband's in the military, I know now that I am fully prepared to a degree to handle
something.
Whatever comes, our way, especially just in Oklahoma. For us, you get so many folks that travel in for, Fort Sill. You get a lot of people who come in and don't necessarily are from here. They don't know what the weather patterns are like. They don't know some of the hazards that exist. And it's like, that's kind of the people we love to be able to try to communicate with, to say, hey, you're not in Kansas anymore. This is a situation in a place where things change very rapidly, and don't be caught off guard. Don't be caught unawares.
We want people to have go bags ready, have everything you need, have your medications, your glasses, stuff for your pets, stuff like that ready, because next month it could be a tornado. This month a flood. It might be both in the same week. Mm-hmm. It could snow tomorrow in Oklahoma. You never know. Yes. So having your go bags ready, having your storm shelters registered, just stuff like that. Being prepared.
We just put one in maybe a couple weeks before that, and at our it's got batteries, it's got lights, it's got
awesome.
Everything needed, and it's registered. I called. There's a number for our listeners, and I think it's a QR code you can scan, and it registers your storm shelter. So if something happens, and heaven forbid your house blows away and you're underground, or there's debris on top of your storm shelter, it's like a pin drop, and it shows where that storm shelter should be.
Yes.
And so that way they know, emergency responders in the recovery stage know where to go and where you're supposed to be, or where your storm shelter is supposed to be.
Yep.
Right.
They can go either through the social media side to the QR code, or they can go to the website, which is ComancheCountyOK.gov, G-O-V. We actually work with emergency communications, and that information gets shifted to them, and so they actually can note in those addresses that there's a storm shelter on that location or at that location and where it's located at.
Cool.
So we have kind of a redundancy even built in, it stays, it's proprietary information. We don't share that with anyone, but 911 has it in case something happens in Lawton. We've got to send LFD or PD, and we can say, nope, there's a storm shelter there on that property, and it's located in the back right corner or the north corner of the backyard. So just an extra step, kind of a life-saving step, because
getting into this profession with the law enforcement, it's just a peace of mind.
Yes.
Because if I'm working in the response or the recovery or wherever I'm at, I need to know that my family's going to be okay.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so they're expensive. They can be but they're worth it.
Yep.
Because it's that peace of mind.
Yep.
So I knew that with everything going on, if there's a severe storm or something, they're going to be taken care of because they know how it operates. They know like the go bags, all that stuff's ready to go. And it's just that peace of mind.
Absolutely.
So register your storm shelters if you have not.
Yeah.
That's definite.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have an app. I'll plug it kind of shamelessly, just
Absolutely.
a little bit.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's available on Android and iPhone both. It's Comanche County EM, so the letter E and the letter M app. And we actually put a ton of preparedness information, including checklists, on that app. You can also receive push notifications for weather, and you can do your storm shelter registration directly from the app as well. And it's a really good little repository of information. So if you don't know where to start, then that's actually a really good place to start. If you're thinking about yourself, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your pets, or even your vehicle. A lot of times we overlook, our vehicle preparedness. And, how many times are we looking at like winter weather or, that severe thunderstorm that's coming in right at the time of commute? And, make sure you've got an extra, set of clothes in your bag. Make sure you've got some, supplies or essentials like some granola bars, some food, jumper cables,
or don't drive
packs.
in it.
Or don't drive in it. That's always the preferable one.
Key.
We had the last deal, we had that snow come through, and I was standing on I-44, and we were doing a PSA video at the tri-level. And I was like, I'm going to get hit by a car. I'm going to get hit. My cameraman's going to get hit by a car. And it was telling people, don't drive.
Yeah.
There was a car that had gone off the side and swirled around. He was okay, thank goodness, but don't drive.
Yeah.
If you don't need to be in it,
Absolutely.
don't be in it.
Yeah.
That was another point I was going to bring up. You never know what's going to happen, so have a plan B.
Absolutely.
If, luckily we've had a lot of rain, so it's not wildfire season, but it's coming. We got to be thinking of those alternate routes. You've got to be thinking of alternate places to stay if something happens. It's so much better if you pre-plan some of that. Think about it on the front side, so you're not dealing with your plan B
in the middle
and the emergency at the same time.
Yes.
So
in the middle of the emergency, you're trying to figure out your plan B. Some of the other stuff that you guys might respond to, it's pretty much all good. I mean, I say it's going to be the same, the ready, respond, recover, but some other situations that might come up where you guys would be heavily involved.
Oh, I'll let you take that.
Tornadoes would be huge. We'd have a very large role in a tornado. We get resources. Where you're going to actually help the boots on the ground, the police and fire. We're going to get, you guys will respond to it, and you'll do a great job for a little while. Then your resources will, become tired. You just can't do it for days and days and days on end. So you're going to need reinforcements coming.
Yeah.
So we would help get you reinforcements. We'd help get more equipment, generators, bulldozers, whatever's needed. Our office coordinates stuff like that. We coordinate through the state and counties close to us that haven't been affected. We'll bring those resources in.
Yep. And then, of course, the community side, so the sheltering side of things and stuff like that. Find places to put people.
I know I was talking earlier, and I've hit on this a few times about your LFD career. How does it feel? Like I don't want to say you're outside looking in or like that elevated view looking in, but you see guys that you've worked with, girls that you've worked with, and then you're in it, but you're not. You're kind of like omnipresent. Like you get to see and hear all the stuff come in, but you're a boot on the ground, but you're not like in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
How was that for you? That transition, that coming over that work of it.
It's definitely different.
Charlie's hitting me with the hard questions.
Yes, it is. No, the view is definitely different. It took it from like a 30,000 foot view to a 50,000, or just as an example. But When I was fire centric, that's all I thought about, all I knew. But now I'm thinking about not only fire, but what are the police doing? What's EMS doing? What is my role now in this position from a community standpoint, not just looking at putting out the fire or putting the Band-Aid on. So it definitely changes the view and changes what we're going to bring to the table.
Have you had your aha, like, that's why they do that?
I've had several.
Several.
Yeah.
Thad's had a little bit of a trial by fire, but he's phenomenal. He really is. Like, I love having him as part of our team.
How long have you been on?
2 years.
2 years for, yeah.
Yeah, actually not too much longer than I have. This August will be 3 for me.
I was about to say, because you're under 5
Yeah.
years, I know that. And then, well, good. And you're loving it.
I am. I can still take my passion for helping people and just do it on a larger scale.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's a lot bigger than Lawton. That's the thing too you talked about earlier. It's Comanche County emergency. This is for everybody else. This is people driving into town, visiting. How many of those people? I didn't even think about this. How many of those people were visiting from their soldiers out at Fort Sill?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Those
absolutely, yeah.
the graduations. And you've got families coming in from Wisconsin, Michigan, California, all over.
Oh.
And then that's why it's important. I know with all of our posts and feeds that I put out, like with the police department, I will put, please make sure to follow us and for more information and more updates.
Yes.
Because I can give this information to somebody else and they may put it out, but it may not be the accurate. Like we want them to know, just like with you guys, follow us.
Yes.
And we'll put out the most accurate information that we have at that time to you guys to give you the best decision, to give you the best options that you can have right there in the moment.
Absolutely.
For your respond, because they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
They're getting ready with us.
Yep.
And responding, they're working through it, and then they're going to have to build their own recovery. So if we can be there with them every step, then so be it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you've been a fan of the show, I don't know if you guys have listened to some of the other ones before, and I always do what we call a rapid fire Q&A, which is rapid fire question and answer. So if that's something that you guys, Thad, you're looking at me like,
let's give it a try.
You're like, so I'll ask you, and then just both of you can answer, and then we'll discuss. It may not be as rapid as one because I might want to venture off into your answers. Hobbies while you are not at work.
Photography.
Okay.
That's like and gardening. I have a flower bed, and I take pictures of cats and flowers and birds. Birds, flowers, photography. Those are my three.
Okay.
Yeah.
And cats.
And cats, yeah.
And mine's more like just trees. I've planted over 75 trees on my property, but
just trees.
He
just
builds
trees.
things too.
Hobbies,
He builds
trees.
things.
Yeah.
Trees are my hobby.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a little more specific than that. So you're planting trees.
Yeah, planting trees. It's not that bad, but
He waters a lot of trees too.
I've planted over 75 different trees on my property. Planted another 1,500 in bags.
Sorry.
You said cats
I do have
and gardening. Do you have gnomes?
I actually do have a gnome, and it's on the back of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's holding a crossbow in one hand and an American flag in the other hand. It's about this tall.
You gotta love Etsy.
Like eight
Is that where you got that? Like
I am not sure. My husband found it.
Probably
it has to be.
He brings in the weird things.
Temu.
Yeah, Temu probably. Yeah.
Well, there you go. No,
That's the only gnome. Everything. I have a T-Rex. I have like a metal T-Rex and a metal flamingo, and then just random things.
Okay.
So.
What was your first job?
My first job. I worked at a daycare when I was like 16. And so I started young corralling people. Like I was in charge of all the school age kids. So I had kindergarten through 5th grade, and I worked in the afternoons after school, and it was fun. I mean, I wasn't much older than some of them, so I'm not sure how we all survived, but that was my first job.
And mine was lawn care. Not very
Planting trees.
There you go.
Planting trees. Lawn care. How old were you started that?
I guess 12, 14, somewhere in there. Neighborhood.
Do you prefer a text or a phone call?
It depends on the subject, but text is easy.
Does it depend on the person?
It does.
Yep. All right.
Texting.
Text.
Yeah. The only reason I answer my my phone is if I feel like I absolutely have to. So mom, dad, brother.
If I call,
you call my work phone, so I would
Yeah.
answer it, yes. But my personal phone hasn't been off vibrate since like 2012.
everybody paid for, ringtones,
Yes.
and now everybody's phone is on vibrate.
Man, I remember that. I was like 21 years old, and I just got my first like Motorola flip phone with all the really cool ringtones. I had like a $300 phone
like,
bill,
"Oh."
and I was like, "Oh, that had to come out of my paycheck too." It was painful.
That's heavy.
It was.
What about your favorite food? All time, like it
All
can
time?
be. Yeah, it could be like.
Okay,
You
I'm
could
gonna.
say Italian, but you could say pizza. You could say German, but I mean, you could. It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna default to what I wrote down in my first grade, and that's pot roast.
Pot roast, like
Yes.
a comfort food.
Yes, like I put something I can remember now. I think my mom probably
As a
still has
first
it.
grader.
Yes, and
pot
it was like
roast.
chocolate or like it was like brown, and everybody assumed it was like chocolate ice cream, and I was like, no, it's pot roast. So
As a first grader.
Yes.
There you go.
yeah, I've been into that
You
comfort
got
food
you
for a
got it
long
all
time.
together.
Yes.
And for me, it kind of changes with the season. I like all food.
Right now,
Right now, I'd say Mexican.
Mexican food.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Fun fact. Fun fact about yourself that somebody may not know. Not like you can play the ukulele with your feet or something like that, but like maybe. I mean, if you can, I would have
Wow.
saved the tree thing for that if you'd have known that was coming. But
I
what's
didn't think it was that fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting.
It is. So I actually can play the piano and drums. I play by ear, and I can read music
At the same time.
at the same time. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, it's like a duet with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got nothing.
You don't do impressions or anything. You know.
No.
I'm trying to think.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah. I've got a fun fact. Not so fun, but when I was 17, before I decided a life in the military and public service, I actually ran from the police in a
Really?
vehicle. Yeah.
Here?
No, in
Statute of limitations probably out on this.
yeah,
but-
in my home state, I ended up crashing, getting arrested, 5 tickets. It was not my best day.
Yeah. What kind of car?
It was a Camaro.
That's so sad.
Was it your Camaro?
It was.
Okay, that's at least that's good. At least
But
it
I'd-
wasn't somebody else's Camaro.
Yeah, I'd spent 6 months building the motor for it. It was fast. I'm like, there's no way they can catch me. I just didn't anticipate the sudden
Turn.
impact at the end.
I missed that turn.
Yeah. So
Well, you've seen the error of your ways,
I have.
and look at you now,
You're quite
No.
the reformed citizen, Thad.
reformed all-star. Let's see, favorite season.
Oh, spring.
Don't say salt or pepper. Someone did that one time, and they threw me off, and I
It would
was
have
like,
to be, if we're going that direction, it's garlic powder, like garlic. Like
okay.
that's my
Well,
first favorite food group.
Like, let's say season, as in like fall,
Spring.
winter, spring.
Yeah,
You
spring.
know, Oklahoma, we just have like a day of each.
Yeah. When Oklahoma has has a true spring, that's 100% my favorite because you get the wildflowers blooming, you get all the bird migrations. It hits all my favorite hobbies. So spring's my jam.
Okay.
So I'm not a cold weather person.
I like the fall. Like if we have an actual true fall and you get to see the leaves change
Close-
and you get to see a
close
lot.
second, yeah.
That's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. It's going into the cooler weather.
Close second, yeah.
So
I'm going to have to go with spring as well. This last spring hasn't been indicative of most of them with the flooding and all that, but I do love spring.
let's see. Favorite pizza topping.
Oh, either bacon or Canadian bacon.
Okay.
There's a trend there.
Not like broccoli.
No,
No.
no.
Dad, don't hit me with broccoli.
No, I wasn't. Mine's going to be as boring as trees.
Trees are not
It-
boring.
It rhymes with trees. It's cheese.
Cheese,
Yeah,
cheese
I
and
just like
trees.
a good old cheese pizza. I don't like greasy toppings.
Just
so.
know this: trees were not boring. It just threw me off. Like I said, what's your favorite hobby? And you were like trees, and I went,
Mm.
oh, okay, let's run with this. Let me see. Like you are an oak. Your favorite holiday.
Oh man, I love like the whole from like Thanksgiving through like the New Year's time frame.
All of them.
All of them, because that's
Yeah.
just for me. It's always been indicative of like family, and so
Everybody's
everybody's together. And I know it seems cliche, but everybody seems to be a little nicer to around
We've
that
talked
time.
about that on the show.
So I really like that whole. Plus, my birthday's in November, so and I'm right
When in November?
the 24th. So I
Oh.
like every 4 years it falls on Thanksgiving, so it's like a win-win. It's turkey and birthday cake.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that whole kind of season there. Plus, you get lots of time off too.
I'm gonna have to go with Christmas. It's
Because
just
of the tree.
because of the tree. Absolutely, back to the tree. I appreciate that. No,
Thank you.
it's such a magical time, and my wife is the Christmas queen. She just there's not a portion of our house that isn't decorated. It's just a magical place to be.
Hobby Lobby is probably in business because of you.
It could be.
Yes.
It could be.
It's-
But we do have a lot of antique trees and stuff passed down from generations. It's just it's beautiful.
Good.
I will
Like-
say though, he's showing pictures. It's truly like gorgeous. Like his wife, the way she decorates. I mean, it's like walking into like a wonderland. It's really cool.
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I think it'd be, especially if you're talking about like the antique stuff and that's got history to it. It's got, this came from family members, from my grandfather's grandfather had this one and da.
Correct.
Pass it down. And so it's just, you got not only that, you get the story, you get to, remember your past, and no, it works. I like that. Let's see, we did favorite holiday, favorite movie.
Trying to think.
Oh, I've got one.
Any movie.
Any movie.
Mine's The Notebook. I know it's. I mean, I probably cried crocodile tears,
Really?
snot bubbles. You name it. It was
Really?
yeah, made an impression.
Huh.
I'm a softie at heart.
No, I get that. They had a love.
Yep.
They had a big love.
So, I like any of the Harry Potter movies. Like anytime they're on, I will watch.
Totally different from
them.
The
And
Notebook.
yes, because I tend to stay away from movies that make me cry, and because they're kind of odd. So like the last movie that I cried uncontrollably at was Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh,
Because the whole deal with Rocket and I cried.
That was a rough one.
It was. So
that was a rough one.
we watch a lot of Harry Potter and stuff like that. So
Good. I like the honest answers too. You could have just said like Top Gun
Yeah, something
and
manly.
just been like,
yeah.
hey, no,
yeah,
that's not what we do here on Badge and Banter. No,
No.
sir.
you get
No,
get
ma'am.
the
You get
nerd and then
you get the
like,
feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it works out. Well, good. Well, we've done the rapid fire Q&A. So that's a definite plus for me. So
We passed.
I didn't say that. I just said we did it. So I've asked you guys a lot, and we have talked about a lot. We recap a little bit about the ready, respond, recover is probably the main message that people need to take away. I would say for what you all do and what for the community. You're there for them to help get ready. You're there for them to help respond, and then for them to recover from what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have any final thoughts?
I've got a few. Just number one, the civilians, the people themselves, they are kind of their own first responder. You've got to be ready. Don't anticipate, especially if it's going to be a big emergency, God forbid. But we, the first responders, police, fire, EMS, there's not enough of us to take care of a population of 100,000, 90,000, whatever the population is. So you've got to be, take some ownership, some precautions. Take care of yourself. Learn CPR. Have your go bag ready. You don't count on local government. We're going to be there, but it might not be as quick as you want it. Secondly, we're going to respond, but don't count on FEMA either. There's a slogan out there called "The First 72 is on you," because FEMA.
They're everywhere. They're
Yeah.
taking care of everything else too.
Right. It probably, if there's an issue here, it might be more widespread than just here. So it does take time for those government resources. So you've got to be prepared to take care of yourself.
Elena, what you got?
Really, just to follow up on what he's saying is a lot of it comes down to that self-awareness. And I know a lot of the questions that we get to follow up with what he said is how do I get started, or maybe it's a financial type piece. And really, there's so many new options. There's so many things available now to anyone. it's learning CPR. There's so many different kind of inexpensive ways to make sure that you and your family are prepared. And I think probably the one thing that I would leave with people is just, it takes one step. And we live in an area that's not unlike, places like in California or places in Colorado, which have seen, everything from wildfires to, mudslides to flooding and things like that. Don't ever think that it's not going to happen to you, and don't ever think that it won't happen in your backyard, because it's just a dynamic thing. And a lot of folks that we saw just in April, they're like, well, we've never flooded before. And so it's so imperative just to remind folks that it may never happen, but don't take the chance of not being ready if it does happen.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of places you guys go and look, websites, preparedness for storms, things like that. I'm sure there's stuff on your website. We put, PSAs out all the time, especially when it comes time towards weather season, things like that. And if listeners, if there's something that you guys want to see, something that you guys want to hear coming from Badge and Banter, some topics that maybe you want to have on the show, some guests, then by all means drop those in the comments and let us know, and we'll go from there. So guys, I appreciate y'all being here. Thank you very much, and I'd love to have you on the show again. We'll ask some more different questions for rapid fire Q&A too, and maybe discuss some more stuff. So everybody listening, thank you, and stay tuned. We'll bring you so much more. Have a great day.